Welcome to the tutorial for the Laserworld Showeditor version 6 timeline programming. So what we do is program a laser show. The software installation has not been configured yet, so this is what we do now, especially regarding the current hardware setup. First of all, we select 5 hardware interfaces. As we don't have actual interfaces connected, we select virtual interfaces, which is perfectly sufficient for programming purposes because we do visualization later. So what we do, we select the different output channels per hardware interface. We want to program with 5 interfaces, so it's planned to have 1 center interface and 4 satellite interfaces. So it's pairs of satellites. This means we now do an x-axis mirroring for 2 of the satellites, so the image is x-axis mirrored. This is important for the simulation and the visualization later. So first of all, to be able to see what we're programming through the visualizer, we need to configure it first. So first of all, we open up the simulation window. Before that, we need to select the test patterns so we have some output and can configure the actual position per laser projector. So overall, we've got 5 different laser projectors to be positioned, and to see all of them, it's important to just make them visible with the options control. We just made all of the 5 visible, and you can see them overlapping. Here it's an overlapping image, and we can select per projector. Here you can see I select projector 2, projector 4, and projector 1, and we try to arrange them in a way so we can see the center projector and the pairs of satellite projectors, so it's easier to see the show later in a general visualization. By selecting a different test patterns, you can see that there is it's easier to position them. By switching on the beam show mode, you can see how the different beams overlap. So this all looks pretty good already. I think we can reposition projector 5 and 1, which are the outer satellites, and projector 2 and 4, which are the inner satellites, a bit more spacey, so it's better to see the effects later on. Now we switch on the beam mode to see if the x-axis mirroring works properly, so you can see that. By reducing the size of this window, we can see all the different parts of the software at the same time, because we want to program a laser show and therefore we need to see the figure editor. Now we switch on the timeline, we click on create new show and select an audio file. In this case it's a personal one, so we don't get any issues. So then we need to specify a name for this laser show. It's suggested to select a file name without spaces, but it works with spaces as well. It's just a matter of compatibility later. Also, do not use any special characters for the name. This may cause issues later on. It definitely is suggested to use wave audio files, because in this case you can see the waveform up here. This is not possible with MP3 or other formats, so it's suggested to use wave files. If the waveform appears damaged or corrupted, there are several options to repair it. You can select renew waveform and then select a resolution for that. 3 is fine normally, because it's we select 3 and the waveform is recreated. The other option is to just double click onto the waveform and it's recreated automatically. Okay, so I want to give you some important hints on how to use the software in general. This is how to zoom. You can see if you zoom in, also the waveform is adapted. If you click again on zoom, it zooms back to 100%. You can also use the mouse wheel to zoom. So if you hold the pointer to a certain line, for example on figure 1, and you scroll down, it zooms in, and if you scroll up, it zooms out again. So that's pretty easy to use, and right click on draw new also zooms back to 100%. When starting to program a laser show, it's important to provide further information on the show you're actually doing. So this is important if you recall the show later, or if somebody else should recall the show, so the person knows what settings you've made and what the show is all about. So this can be entered here. I enter the show name, the show programmer, etc. But this one here, this part is more important because this represents the output routing. There is only A, B, C, D as output routing on here. This is from previous versions. Now we have even more, many more options to do the output routing. Therefore, I write it down here. I say A and B is the center, C and D is the inner satellite, and E and F is the outer satellites. I use two tracks for the center, A and B. This allows us to have more different figure lines, figure tracks to use. So we can use 6 figure tracks instead of only 3 for the center projector. This is normally not necessary, but it leaves us more options. Before starting to program the laser show, we need to reset our general settings to the initial ones. You remember we changed the settings, the output settings for the visualization, so we have had a good display in the simulation, but we need to change this because we want to see the real output now when we program, and not all lasers on at the same time. You can also save the settings you made, for example, for use later with a simulation with the same settings. For example, if you hand on the laser show to another person, or if you want to just recall the visualization settings later. So this is how you save them. I saved them to the show folder itself. It's a matter of personal preference, but this is the color circle, and we can change that to a color cube, which allows many more different color shades to be selected. So this is what I do now, and save and apply. So when we start programming now, there is different types of how to start programming a laser show. Some programmers like to make a full set of different patterns and frames. They create all the frames in advance and then record the timeline show more or less like a live show, and then only do a few adaptations later on. Some other users, they tend more to do kind of a storybook in advance and plan everything, and then create the different figures and patterns part by part when they actually need them. So this is the type of programming we start to work with now, because it's easier to explain. So first of all, we want to get an impression about the music we're using. So we hear a part of the music to understand what could fit this music part. So
Okay.
I think a smooth red wave effect, slowly moving red wave effect would fit good here. So this is what we give a try now. So we minimize the window of the timeline editor, and now we're back at the figure editor. We select red color, and then we select the waveform generator. You can see the color is selected red, and we can start the output. You cannot see anything now because it's not configured yet. We want to have a line, just a single line, and we want to create a waveform. We say, okay, we want to have a y-axis waveform on wave 1, and we have a x-axis waveform on wave 2, and we make some small adaptations to change how the wave behaves. We do also a third wave on the red color, so you see it fades out and only has on the peaks color intensity. And we can also add additional yellow, so it's a bit yellowish on the highs of this wave. This looks pretty nice already. The frames per second rate we set to 100 now, because it allows us to reduce the speed of the figure later on, to just slow it down without having additional flickering or any variations in the projection. We click apply, and the new figure is imported to the figure editor. And if we click on frames per second, you can see it's entered 100, the 100 we just specified previously. But every song has a different speed, so we need to find out the beats per minute of our song to properly set the speed of the figure. Therefore, there is a beat counter in the timeline window, so if you select the beat counter, you can tap the beat of the song with the space bar. So we play the music and tap the spacebar to identify the beats per minute. You can see that it changes a bit. So it's a 120 beats per minute song here. So we want to move this wave to the beat of the music, and I want to have it move to every second beat. So what I enter here is 60 space BPM. So we confirm that, and when switching the laser on, you can see it move to the rhythm. So at least this looks pretty good, and therefore we save this figure, save as, whatever name you want to choose here. Most important is that you choose the show folder and no different place, because all the frames and figures need to be in the same folder. You can see the figure now in this window and you can select it, but if you want to use it for programming, you definitely need to assign a certain key to this figure, because the whole software is key based, so everything's controlled with a key. With a right click you can make assign a key, and then you just press whatever key you like. I pressed 1 and this figure is assigned to the key 1. You can open the live window and you can see that this figure is assigned to key 1, and you can also drag and drop the figures to any position here. Right click on any position allows for deleting the assignment. So if you press key 1, this figure is called, and if you press spacebar, then it's uncalled, so then it's blackout. Okay, so let's start recording. We select track A, and there we select track 1, so it's the figure track 1, and then we press record, and then it starts, music is playing, and we start recording pressing 1, and unfortunately we missed the point, pressed too late. So what can we do? We can either use the eraser or simply click on undo. We now press the key too early on purpose, because we want to have the effect fade in. So we start the recording again, and pretty early now press the key So you already see in the simulation that it's recorded. To add the fade in effect, we zoom in to the part we want to modify. You can see the waveform, and then we use the fade in effect on the 3 color channels RGB. You can see the effect here. To zoom out again, right click on new draw, but you can see that the fade in effect fades from dark to on. The problem is that the figure is on from the beginning, then off, and then fades in. This is not what is expected, so we need to change the figure. We click on effects, and then we reduce the intensity per color channel. Just an explanation of the additional checkboxes here. If you uncheck these boxes here, it specifies how fast the portion of the very color disappears and appears again. If you check the absolute checkboxes, it specifies the very absolute intensity value per color channel. Important is to save the figure now. And if I return to the timeline window, I see that the figure initially is dark, so it's a dark figure, and it fades in with intensity being set to 100% per color channel. Unfortunately, we made a small mistake as we programmed the sequence on the wrong track. So we want to mark this and cut. Then we move to track C to figure track 1 and paste. So you can see we moved the whole sequence from track 1 to track C. We can play and see how it looks like. Looks pretty well already, but maybe it looks even better if we slightly angle the figure. So we change back to the figure editor. We select the figure and we open the effects window. We make an absolute value for the rotation, and of course we need to make the beam visible first. That's why we temporarily set the intensity of red to 100%, but we put back to 0. Now you can see the angled projection. Looks pretty nice already.
Ich weiß noch nicht was.
So what kind of effect can we add when these higher tones come in? Yeah, maybe we have some patterns just flash with a beat and then disappear again, something like that. And we do a bi-colored line that appears on different positions each time it reappears. And we try to make them appear from top to the bottom, so steps from top to the bottom. But first of all, let's save the show. So if anything happens, we still have the saved status. But that's an important information on the Laserworld Showeditor. So even if the software crashes, the computer crashes, something crashes, there is still the undo files that you've created when doing the show programming. So it usually is possible to restore shows if the system has crashed. So when you restart Laserworld ShowEditor after it has crashed, it gives messages guiding you to where all these lost files may reside. So to proceed further, we have to make a new figure. This is the line that we want to have to fade in, fade out. To do that, we select the multi-line tool and the white color. And the multi-line tool has the feature that if you left click, it draws a visible point, and if you right click, it draws a non-visible, a blank point. This is an important thing because blank points and visible points have different behavior if it comes to fading. So we set a blank point on purpose, right click, but you cannot see it. So you need to change the settings and you need to visualize blank points. It's important. So this is show blank points so you can see them and you can directly see the lines where the scanner is drawing. So there is a line, a visible line, and there is blank points. We activate the color fade mode, and you can already see in the preview window that there is a nice fade out effect to the edges of this line. We can also color the points. We change the color now to red, so we have a full red line with fading at the beginning and the end. If you want to add additional points to the lines, you can use the scissors tool to cut out one of the points and then add additional points. Thus you can add more colors and different color behaviors even if you've drawn the line. So here you can see the color changing. So the scissors tool adds additional points to existing lines. There is an additional window in Laserworld ShowEditor which is called Frame Information Window. This is super helpful if it comes to drawing own figures, own frames, because you can see the position and also the order of the points that are drawn, and you can also reorder the points and also delete and change settings, which is extremely helpful to streamline your drawing, to make reductions to the number of points, and also to have control over how the scanner actually draws the figure, which significantly can improve the quality of the output. So now we want to have the frame fade in and disappear to the bottom. To do that, we first of all copy our frame. There are different options how you can do that. You can mark all points, click on new frame and just copy and paste, or you can make a new frame and press Ctrl A, mark all points, do copy, do paste, and then you have it in the new frame. But the easiest option is just to right click on new frame and you get a new frame with a copy of the existing one. You can do this multiple times to create just as many copies of the frame you want to have. And you can also delete the existing frames by selecting the desired one and just click delete frame. So it's important to know that many of the features of the Laserworld ShowEditor also use the right mouse click for certain actions. So it's highly recommended to just read through the manual and get all the detailed informations out of there. It helps a lot when programming shows. So to work on this figure animation, we first copy the existing frame, right click on new frame, and we want to have the first frame of these two to be the smaller one. So we use the zoom feature and we just want to use it on the x-axis, not on the y-axis. So we click on OK, and we do the mouse wheel now. If you use the mouse wheel, you can zoom smaller, and we also do adaptations to the x-axis only a bit. So you can see that also it's all mouse wheel action now, turning the mouse wheel. As we want to have a fade in effect, we mark all points and change the color to black, so it's blacked out points. The second frame is fine, so we copy the second frame again, so we have a third frame, and we want to change this one. We have all points selected, Control A to select all points, and then we use the hand tool to move all the points. Right click and drag and drop. We then mark all points and also color them black. So we have a black first frame, a normal colored second frame, and the third frame is black too. Okay, you maybe have recognized that we accidentally deleted the second frame when doing the undo for a mistake. So we just need to redo the procedure for the middle frame. We just redo it, just move it back to the initial position. Then we do a copy, right click, we mark all points, Control A, move them, and we change the color to black. As we want to have a smooth transitions between these three frames, we click on Morph All and create a morph effect between these three frames. We enter 100 to have 100 frames created, and the software automatically creates the frames in between. And the frames per second option provides the option to control the speed of the animation. 100 seems to be okay for here, so let's see how it looks like. We do laser on, and they can see how the effect works and the figures displayed. As we only want to play the frame once, we switch to single play, and then it's important to see that the last frame has 5 points. So the scanner would try to do these 5 points even if the figure is ended. So we add a blank frame with a left mouse click on your frame as the very last frame. This basically blackouts the figure and the output after the display has ended. And we save the figure, just name it Morph1. So we do the key assignment for Morph1 to key 2. What's not so nice is that you cannot see the figure on the icon, because it simply doesn't display because the first frame is black out. So what you can do is you can select a specific frame that you want to have as preview, and then you can do a right mouse click here and do assign as icon, and then you can see it for the preview. It is important to do save all now to have everything saved, even the workspace and the frames here. Now it comes to the assignment of the figure to the timeline editor. We try it on track A and we do the figure track 1. We now have to listen to the music and to find the right point to enter the figure. We have it on key 2, so we're listening when the sound's fitting.
Go past.
Okay. So we give it another try. Need to count the beat. Okay, and here we go. Have you seen it? Looks to be in key. So to make it easier, the next one we don't make on page A, but on page E. Let's give it a try. We do the recording. So the first one's showing. And now we put the second one. Okay, looks good. And we go back to page A and add another one. Okay, and the last one we want to have on both pages. So we hold the control button and click both tracks, both figure tracks. So figure track 1 and figure track 12. So the recording applies to both of them. Looks good, so we save it. You may have recognized that you haven't seen the wave we did at first in the preview window. So there is no wave, it's just the new effects. This is due to us having started recording somewhere in the middle of the track, not from the beginning. So there is a certain special settings in the options to prevent this effect. The thing is that Laserworld ShowEditor always starts the events and then continues with the events. So if you start after a certain effect has started already, it is not loaded. So to activate that, there is an option in others too, which says quick start. If we disable quick start, it always loads all the effects and all the actions of the whole show, so you can see the preview with all the effects, even those that have started before. So if you now start the preview from the middle of the show, you see all the effects at the same time. So let's see if these both tracks recorded at the same time. So you can see it on track E we have the first event, and the second event is the one that was simultaneously recorded on track A and E. So to multiply these effects, you could either mark the existing events and copy them, but it's a lot of fumbling to position them correctly, so it's easier to just record them and put them to the right position. Okay, and we want to add some additional rotation effect to the satellites. So we move on to the effects recording. To record an effect, we first of all mark the effects track we want to use. In this case, it's the rotation track. And we need to make sure that the settings are correct in the effects. I want to have an absolute setting for the rotation to not have it flip around crazy, but just be a distinct rotation. So what I do is I press record, and at the position I want to have the effect to kick in, I click and drag the mouse in this left bar. Have you seen? I just want to do it to the opposite direction, so I undo and try again. Click and drag. Click, drag. So we proceed with adding more frames and more events to this song. The song is not super nice, but it's perfect for tutorial. So you hear this cluck, cluck, cluck in the song, and we want to use that for additional frames and events. So we try the copy paste effect. We go to track 1 to page 1 and copy everything to page B, and we do paste, and it pastes at the exact same position as on page A. And the same we do with track E and copy to page F. And this part we use the hand tool and move it on the timeline to, let's hope, the correct position. We can correct that later a bit, but this is a difficult part. To get a better view, we can use the zoom tool to zoom in and see the right position. Let's see if we... Yeah, that looks already pretty good. It's not always easy to match that with a waveform, but in general, it's not that tricky to find the correct position. Important info: to not lose the selection when using different tools, I clicked with the right mouse button on the hand tool.
Jo, das ist eigentlich ganz gut.
We do the same thing on page B now. Same thing again. Just wanna drag it to the correct position. Just need to slightly move it. So let's add some more color and change some colors. We could modify the white part of the pattern by reducing green or blue. So we record an effect for the green color intensity. So we select the green effects channel, and we again go to the record mode and record our settings. Click and drag to adjust the effect. And we do that also on page F. Same thing. Click and drag. And you can see the effect in the preview window. Can you see how it's getting purple? Now you can see it. You can see how the color changes. Now you can see it. So up to now, we have only used two different figures, and we've also been quite lazy regarding the effects. So let's listen again and listen what could fit. Probably this clack, 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 clack sound is something we should work with. So this effect should be shown on the projector that's not outputting at that time. So let's do a new quick frame and figure. We do a new figure, and we want to do a white flash, then turn to blue, and then fade out. That's basically the thing we want to do. We do the multi-line tool. We select white first. Then we have 4 white points in one point and blank points beginning and end. Then we have a blue line in a new frame, and we move that one to the bottom. This is the third frame, and yeah, we want to black out that one, and we morph these 3 frames. No looping, just a single run. So we save it, save the figure, just name it clack, and yeah, we assign it to a key, which is important, as you remember. Okay, so this is on key 3. We go back to the timeline and we record. So page A is already occupied. We want to run it on the next page. Yeah, let's see which one is good. Yeah, that one looks good. So we have a second figure track. So it's not the identical one we recorded previously, but it's another one. Okay. So have you seen the blue ones? The flash ones, and then fading out to blue and then black. Okay, you can see them. And it's the same type of recording, just press 3 at the right time. Looking pretty good already. So forgot to add one of them to track B, page B. Okay. And another one to page C. So we have this effect on all different output channels. What we forgot to do is adding a completely blank last frame to this figure, which is no problem because we can add that now afterwards, because the arrangement on the timeline is just a calling of the figures we have saved. So if we change the figure, the appearance on the timeline will also be changed. So there's no problem at all. So as the song's changing now, if we move on, we need to think of what we can do there. So when the beat kicks in now, the character of the track changes, so it makes sense to also change the laser type of effects. So we go back to the wave generator, because the wave is quite a nice thing here, I think. So we do a vertical line. Let's play a bit with the features of the wave generator. Just try what fits your requirements, what your idea is best. So what you can see, the different waves, the effects to add, they overlap to a certain extent. So that's a nice one. You see there is many options you can use. You can also have the different color transitions here, multicolor effects. So we apply these settings and we get the new figure. We specify the speed again, which is also important to properly match the speed of the track. We do the 60 bps again. So let's save this figure. This one should loop, of course, because if it ends, it's just one wave and that's it. So if we want to put some rotation on it, continuous rotation, then we uncheck the absolute and then apply the rotation speed. And we can also apply the color intensity and have that change later. Just play a bit here and see the differences. Okay, we save it. Okay, we assign the key. Important, don't forget that. Assign to key 4. Then back to the timeline window. We select the right page. We select page E. So back to the record mode, and we record it. So I use the space bar to end the actual effect, because this was a continuous looping figure and I need to terminate that one so it does not continue with outputting. So I just press the key for it to start, and when it should end I just press spacebar. Okay, so adding some intensity effects, fade in and fade out effect. Let's see how this influences on the output. It should be fade out now. Yeah, have you seen it fading out? Yeah. So for the center we want to have some circles. These ones we draw as new figure, new frames. So we make new figure and we put some circles there. We don't actually do circles, but we do polygons because it's easier for us to color the edges, and yeah, it's in general it's easier to handle than a circle if you want to recolor it and if you want to change the points later on, because you don't have so many. It's that simple. So we apply different colors to the different lines and we do a complementary color here, orange, so orange and blue. They go well together. So that's it. That's the effect. It takes the effect we applied for the previous figure. So we changed that one here. We still have the rotation, but we don't have the pulsing of the intensity anymore. So we mirror it once. So we have it doubled, and we want to yeah, adjust them a bit so it's the same figure, the same frame, but it appears to be two, and it appears these two are linked together to a certain extent. So this is a very nice effect. You can generate this with this effects generator. Just play a bit with this effects generator because there's so many different options you have, but it just requires some playing with it to understand how it actually works. So we save this figure as well. And we assign a key. Just did it with keyboard now. It's on key 5. Okay. So we use a different event line for the recording. This is on the center projector. So here we go. What a pity. Made a mistake. Do it again on a different page. Just missed that one. Okay. Just some hint, if the bar for recording the effects is too long for you, so it's, yeah, you simply cannot do it with one mouse strike. You can also just resize the window, and the way you have to go with the mouse is much shorter.
Mouse fading.
So we're adding the effect. Now you can see it's a color fade out effect. So I take the same figure, but I adjust the effects. So just reducing red. And we have it move upwards. Okay, there's just some adjustments to make it look different and to have a different pattern. And of course we need to make save as, because we want to save it as new pattern and do not want to substitute the existing one. So we assign it to a key and we get going. Okay, on track E. Let's have a look. Okay, doing some adjustments. Okay, we go back to the timeline and do the recording on page E. Okay, here we go. So we have the center we recorded previously, and these are now the satellites. Similar frame, similar figure, but different layout. So we're applying an effect to it. Okay, that was... Okay, need to adjust some of the settings of the effects to make it look nice and match the other effects and other figures. So we need to apply to green and blue. So here we go. To undo. Yeah. Okay, that looks already pretty good. Have you seen it? Fade out first. Now fading out to red. Okay, still adjusting here to end this one. Yeah. Red's too slow on this one, so we need to speed the fade out up for red. Okay, just some basic adjustments. It's the fine tuning already. Okay, so this pattern is repeating more or less due to the sound file repeating it. Okay, we can record on the different tracks, continue recording with all the different frames. Okay. Page C. And an A. Record more of these effects. So we use the magnifier to see more what's happening here. Yeah, here we can see the waveform and identify where the beat kicks in. So we put the fade out effect there and put fade out effects in here as well. So we can get the different colors faded out. Let's have a look. Yeah, fades out. Maybe you've recognized that these tunnels, these circles, are moving up and down, and they're not supposed to do that. They were supposed to just move from top to bottom. So this requires some additional settings in the effects settings. Just checking some boxes. Save, don't forget to save, and then yeah, we play it back. Let's have a look at the full show we've done so far. So that's it.